Okay, hi everybody. This is Cindy with Magazine Mama, and today I'm interviewing Darren Bowen of Darren Bowen Photography, and we're going to talk about his Christmas holiday Santa sessions. So, Darren, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about your photography business, first of all, and then how you came up with the idea of wanting to do Santa photo sessions.
Okay, well, hi, I'm Darren. I've been doing photography for about coming on 3 years now, and it kind of just happened out of nowhere. It really was kind of bizarre, but I had always been taking photographs, and it goes back even 10 years where I had a Facebook album where I called it 365 images of complete and utter bollocks, and I just take a picture every day, and it was just fun back then. And then it just all started to emerge in 2016. Mm-hmm. And it's gone from what I would call my core work, which was kind of like the Coke sign or the boots or the bike on the beach, mm-hmm. to then somebody, during a show, somebody was asking me, can I take their photo? Uh-huh. And I was like, well, I don't really do people, Uh-huh. And so she chased me for 5 months to just do this photo. And so I ended up doing it, and it was the most incredible experience, and the pictures were fantastic. So I was really shocked, actually. And so that emerged to continue, and then ended up doing food photography and retail and commercial, and it's just been going crazy and crazy and crazy. And then this whole Santa thing started. That was around October or November of last year.
Oh, okay. So the Santa session started, like the idea for it started last year?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was really interesting, because I've done these before. I've worked with high-end boutiques and everything, and it can be really profitable. But what I really like about yours is that you are donating to cancer research for children. So
right.
Go ahead and tell us how it got started. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the charitable bit, and it's a really weird story. Like everything I do with this whole photography thing is weird anyway. But so it started, I was asked in the neighborhood to cover the event for a little girl who was 3 at the time, who had just been diagnosed with DIPG, which is a childhood brain cancer. Mm. And there's no solution. It's a death sentence. And it just touched my heart doing the event for them and how strong those parents were. Mm-hmm. And it all started to roll from there. And then around, like I said, that was middle of last year. And then around October, I had this crazy idea, had nothing to do with the charity, but I just thought, wouldn't it be fun to take strange pictures of a Santa Claus, urban, like outside, because a lot of my stuff is quite different, and I wanted to sort of push it, Right. So for some reason, I guess I have this affinity with Santa, and so, but I didn't have a solution for that. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing a shoot for a hospital around January, and I was doing what I had to do, and I walked into this office, and this lady that worked there, we were just chatting, and I'm very chatty anyway, and I just happened to mention this crazy idea I had amongst everything else I do about this Santa idea, and she just went, "Oh, I know a Santa," and I was like, "Who knows a Santa?" Seriously, who knows a Santa, right? So I was really quite shocked, and then 3 weeks later, I'm having coffee with Santa, and it was very strange, and I felt really peculiar because I wasn't quite sure why I was there, but I obviously knew because I wanted to meet him to do a shoot. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of embarrassed as well. And I sort of said, well, you probably think I'm crazy. And he says, no, I've checked your work. It's impressive. That's why I'm here. And I went, oh, wow, okay. And then literally from there, it would have been April, we did the outside shoot with him. Mm-hmm. And it all just started to happen. And, I do believe in God, and I try to do my best there. I'm certainly not the most perfect human being. But, it just felt like it was being driven. Mm-hmm. And, and there was a lot of, an awful lot has happened this year, from doing the shoots to sort of planning. And then I started hitting up people. So and I'm quite well connected. I'm actually a software engineer in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I know my thing, and I work for Coca-Cola. And so I thought, well, I'll just start asking. So I engaged Coca-Cola because I know him, right? You can talk to the CEO, and I've actually talked to him about my Coca-Cola picture, stuff like that. And then I started to talk to businesses I had worked with, and even businesses I hadn't worked with. And then it just started to grow. And then I was interviewed on local television a year and a half ago. So I hit them up and actually hounded him, the interviewing guy. And so now actually Monday next week we'll be on TV with Santa to promote all this. Yeah. And then of course Santa is children, and being so impacted from having done the event and learning of other children in the neighborhood with DIPG and other challenges. I just thought it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I really love I love how you don't really have a PR firm. You're kind of your own PR, right?
I do everything.
You do?
I do everything, trouble is I've tried to engage people. And, for a while I wanted to, I do try and blog, and I think that is important.
Yeah.
The trouble is the way I write is quite weird. And it's kind of the way I speak as well. So nobody truly understands what they're reading probably. And so I tried to engage somebody, and we went through a couple of iterations, and we finally met, and he said, I can't tell the story the way you tell it. I can't do that. And I said, well, that's true, you can't, because it was me, but I expect you to be creative. And it was really hard. And so I've tried different people. And in the end, I just sort of, it's not that I don't want partnership.
Right.
But, sometimes you have to find people that with the belief and the same passion about what you're doing, right?
Yeah. But what I was thinking is that it's not difficult to do networking with other businesses, because that's kind of how I did it too. You just go and you just talk to them and tell them your idea. So I think a lot of photographers would be surprised to find that it's not that, a lot of doors start to open when you just start talking to people and letting them know what you're about and seeing how you can work together. So I noticed on your, I looked on your Facebook and your website, you have a lot of sponsors. Now, are they how are they sponsoring you? In what way?
So there's a couple of them that, it's hard to get people to give you money, right? And I have a hard time anybody telling me no, right? So that's the first thing.
Right.
So I think when I come up, it's a bit like a bill collector, so it's like, give us your money. But so two of them, actually, I'm doing one in a bike shop. And it's an Irish guy. So he's really kind of weird. But anyway, he's a lovely bloke. And I remember the day I was doing the shoot with Santa, I was meeting him outside the bike shop in Waxhaw, North Carolina. And he said, I came out through the back door and Santa was outside, and Tilo just said to me, do you know there's a Santa outside? And I said, yeah, I know, he's with me. And he says, well, what are you doing? That sort of fascination was like, because of April, was like, why is Santa here? And I said, oh, I've just got this I'm sort of starting to evolve this plan, blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, whatever you're doing, I want to be involved.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh, okay. And then I had done, there's a local establishment here called Emmett's Social Table, which I did their photography, and I'm just in a good relationship with them. And I spoke to them, and so they're actually giving me a considerable amount of money as sponsorship. Right. And so both these organisations, I can say, and I'll be open, they're both giving $500 each, as sponsorship and hosting. And so that was the kicker. And then I tried to get Coke to sponsor it, but it didn't fit their channels, which is fine. But they are giving me beverages and volunteers for the event.
And that's really important too.
Oh yeah, really nice of them.
Yeah.
And then I started collecting people. It's like people started joining the band, And so now I have, because Santa is absolutely key to all this, because he'll tell me, you need to do this and go and do that. So he told me, look, Santa likes milk and cookies, so can you go and sort that out, So I got a local cookie company, Pink Turtle Cookies, who makes these really cute cookies, who's going to be at the event and selling and contributing to the event as well.
Yeah, okay, I love that. So are
Yeah.
you using all of their marketing channels of all these different businesses? Because
Oh, yeah.
obviously they're going to promote it that they're having this event.
Oh
So
yeah, big time. So one of the key things is, I mean, I'm also doing traditional. I truly believe in traditional marketing. So
Mhm.
I'm actually at the minute I'm just finalising some posters,
Mhm.
and we're going to be putting them up in windows,
Mhm.
like the old-fashioned way.
Mhm.
And also we're using Facebook. So create an event and market, and they market and market. It appears on their page.
Right.
So what I do, so the nice thing about that, I particularly like, which I wasn't familiar with Facebook, is that when you add an admin or add a co-host, it
Mhm.
will appear on their own event list, and you
Mhm.
still have control over it. So if you want to update it or do anything else, you
Mhm.
can just do it, and it's immediately effective.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
there's also this huge infrastructure because I'm a software engineer, right? So I built this huge thing where there's a booking process, there's amount of tickets because we can only do so much in the
Right.
hours we have. So it's all
Right.
been very carefully thought out as well from a marketing, because we don't want to overdo it, but
Right.
we want to underdo it,
Right.
because we're going to have people just walk in. So
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned about that as well, And as
Yeah.
the word gets out, it's going to go crazy, I think. So,
Yeah, yeah, and you definitely have to get those reservations ahead of time. That's what we found
oh yeah.
did
Hmm.
this as well because
Sure.
you just can't go all day long and have the long shoot. So you're let's talk about like how much you're charging because a lot of photographers say, how much should I charge for these type of sessions? So
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing because, I've been struggling about pricing in general, about anything I do. And this is the funny thing about Santi. It's kind of a muse for me, It's like he was talking about, we were having coffee actually about a month and a half ago before we were just really starting to get ready to launch. And he says, what are you going to charge? So the same question. I said, well, I don't really know. And he does work with some other photographers. And he says, well, here, look at what they're doing. So he
mhm,
showed me, and they were charging for about 10-minute segments with a couple of pictures, about 160 bucks.
mhm,
And I just thought, whoa,
mhm,
because what was really, so I sort of started with that, and it just didn't feel right to me because we're doing this for children. And there are people out there who are suffering, and they can't necessarily pay that kind of money.
right.
So what am I really doing? I mean, obviously, what I charge is what goes because I'm giving 100% to the charity. Okay,
Mhm.
this is
Oh,
not a portion of my sales.
right.
This is 100% of the profit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't want the money. I want to do
Oh,
right.
wow. Uh-huh.
And so I was really concerned about that, and I really started to think about it, and I thought, I need to make this because I'm actually about to publish the first set of test shoots we did on Saturday with actual children in it, which I've started to use a little bit of it now,
Mhm.
but it's actually going to go live hopefully tomorrow or tonight. And but that was a concern. So I ended up going to. I thought, when you look at what people earn and their responsibilities, and why should you leave other children out because the rich kids only getting in? I didn't want that.
Mhm.
So I thought I'm going to come down to about 49 just to
Mhm.
start
Mhm.
and get them interested,
Mhm.
let them see what they're getting.
Mhm.
And then I'm probably, as it feels, I'm going to push to probably 69 max.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay.
And I think that's more than fair because for me, I don't need the money.
Right.
I want to create something special
Mhm.
for,
Oh, that's wonderful.
everyone.
Yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
way that you give back with your business, with your
Yeah, and I mean, and in this selfish mode, there is a byproduct, right? Which is
right.
I'm promoting myself
Right.
because I'm getting exposure to all these families and all that data,
Yeah.
which I can then remarket to
Yeah.
next year.
That was my next question. Is the ultimate goal like, or not necessarily the ultimate goal, but you do have a goal of getting clients from
Oh
it
yeah,
because that's kind of your target market there.
of course, yeah, absolutely.
And
And
then, are you
so,
going to be upselling any other
oh yeah,
products at the event? So what kind of things are going to be upselling?
okay. So we're gonna have so so they'll get their pictures, and from there they can then order goods with
Mhm.
that picture. So
Mhm.
there's that avenue. I'm also going to be selling some Santa prints at the events, as well as upselling during checking out and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And then if they want sort of byproduct or actually want to get a more intimate experience, because, you know, it's hard. I just did the shoot Saturday, right? And it was my first experience with very young children. And yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And even though there's some beautiful shots, it's definitely a challenge. So, you know, there's going to be parents that are going to want to memorialize these pictures, because what I'm trying to create is not your mole picture, not your just let's take this outside next to a ski. You know, I want to create something so unique that goes along with my theme of how I take photography anyway, because I kind of do weird stuff anyway. And here's a real kicker, right? I don't really, I want to say this right. I've been told not to say this, but I'm going to kind of allude to it. I'm not really highly technical on the camera side of things. You know, all those little buttons on it? Nah, it's too technical, you know, even though I'm a software engineer. You know, the beauty comes from the heart, right? What you see is what you're portraying. You can use any equipment, right? So, you know, from that perspective, ultimately, I'm digressing a little bit, but I just want to give, you know.
So you're more of this storytelling. And I like how you said that you're creating something unique, because I think that really goes along with your whole branding of your photography business, because I've seen your work online and everything. So it's definitely unique. And that's how you can separate yourself, you know, in your marketing and in your, the copywriting and everything that you do.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I had a meeting with I have friends who are really good businessmen as well. And I often talk and meet with them. And one of them was talking to me last Wednesday, and we were having coffee. And he said, you know, I mean, he loves my work. He's followed me from the beginning. And he said, you know, there's a difference between buying a car and buying a Lamborghini. Lamborghini and Porsche and all these companies don't advertise. They create a name that people desire. So it was about 6 months ago, I decided I don't want to sell my photography. I want to sell a Darren Bowen.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so, because anyone could take a photo, right?
Yeah.
But can someone do what I do? Well, I'd like to think not many.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm inspired. I mean, every day I look at photography. I love looking at and getting inspired. And man, there's some good stuff out there. And I only, you know, I sort of like, yeah, one day I'll get there, you know.
Yeah, and hopefully this will inspire a lot of photographers as well to get out there and do these kind of sessions, because they're really great, especially during the holidays. It's a great way to get your name out there and everything in the community too. Let me see some other questions I had for you. Let's see. And so you'll probably be collecting, well, you'll be collecting the data of the of everyone that comes to have their photo taken, their emails and everything, so that you can market to them later on. And then how many, do you know yet how many sessions you're going to be doing at each location? Like how many hours did you set aside for that?
Yeah, so I've estimated, depending on the length, so we have 3 sessions or 3 events that are going to be 4 hours.
Okay.
So 48 sessions. So 48 slots.
Okay.
Right. And so, and if people want to walk up, you know, or be able to do that. But, you know, and it's really interesting. You talk about networking and marketing. I'm going to touch on this because for your viewers, you know, it is important. And that even just today, you know, we have some big communities around here, and those communities are really, really important to the base, right? Because we're serving them, and there's a lot of families, right? So we should really focus, because, you know, somebody told me once, don't try to take the world on, start with your own zip code, right? And work your way out, which was a good idea, really. You know, I always think big, so it brought me back down to earth. But what was interesting, I was having a conversation because we wanted to, there was a big event happening just on Saturday for fall, and I wanted to get some presents there. So I called the organizer and I said, look, is there a way I can kind of get this word out in your community? It's a really big community. And she started talking to me. And so we ended up saying, look, I'm going to drop off leaflets, which will, when they're going through the ticket process, getting everyone in, they'll give them a leaflet. But then she suddenly said, and this is what's important, because never think never, right? She suddenly says, you know, I'd love you to do this because we're going to have a brunch in December for our community. Do you think you could come and do what you're doing here? And I thought, oh, yeah, of course. So, I said, well, let me have a word with Santa, see how busy he is. and if he's got time, we'll slip it in. So, yeah. And so even that, we did discuss it, and we've created some time slots. So we're actually going to do like a brunch for the neighborhood of maybe 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. So suddenly, from something of just trying to get in and get a presence, even with a leaflet, ends up getting that, plus getting a big gig, which is going to be a part of the fundraising. Yeah. So now this will take us to our 6th event almost. Yeah. And we're going to have that entire community to simply focus on. So that's kind of really important to know. You just never say never.
Yeah, one thing leads to the other. And I think that's really great. You're getting out in the community and getting your name known. And then whenever people need photos, they're going to think of you because they'll remember you from that event. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there was one more thing I was going to mention. Let's see. Yeah, and so definitely like afterwards as well. I know when we did this, we had a lot of people come to us afterwards and want other types of photos as well, like family photos for the holidays, not just photos with Santa. So there's lots of opportunity there as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's all the questions I have. The other one I thought was really neat that that you hit up the TV station, because that's huge. Like that's a lot of money of ads there for free, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's what's exciting. And but I've always been a very social type person, so I've always had a lot of connections anyhow. Mm-hmm. But you really have to learn who every day you meet somebody, mm-hmm. you don't know their purpose 3 years later. So, I met this host who's going to have us on the show. I met him pure coincidence because I used to have all my work in a coffee shop here in Charlotte, and the guy was awesome. And I just got married. And this is how crazy life is. And I knew that there was going to be a Coffee Friday there, and my work was there. And I thought, I'm just going to pop over there, and I want to get a picture of the hosts and get my work in the background. Right. And that was all I went for. Right. Crazy, right? Because I was on going to the mountains for my honeymoon. Right. Mm-hmm. So quickly popped in there. Well, I'm in there and I'm chatting, and I'm people chat anyway, whatever. Suddenly they asked me, can we interview you? I went, yeah, sure, why not? So suddenly I get 2.5 minutes of them simply talking about the work in the shop, in the coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And I got my first live exposure. Mm-hmm. Well, that chance opportunity where most wouldn't have even stopped, even just to do something so stupid, which was to just get a photo with hosts and your work in the back. To me, I just thought that was cool. I wanted it for myself, really. But the point is that look at what happens, and from that I got on TV, and now 2.5 years later, or 2 years later, now I'm using that connection again to actually get this live and on. And so you never know. You just don't know.
It's all about just getting out there, connecting with people, talking to people, and not necessarily selling yourself right away. You just forming relationships, and that's about making relationships and just getting to know each other and like that. And so the last thing I want to close with is any tips or advice to any photographers that think they may want to do some kind of holiday session event like this, or anything to like a fundraising event. Any tips?
Do it with passion, and don't limit yourself. Just do it. Because this started from a crazy idea to do an urban Santa with graffiti. And now it's probably going to be one of the biggest events in Charlotte, I believe, when the word really gets out there. And here's the other part. Who we're raising for is the Isabella Santos Foundation. Mm-hmm. So we've actually partnered with them as well to give it some authenticity. Mm-hmm. So just don't limit your mind and don't limit your connections, and just do it.
Oh, great advice. Great. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Darren. I really appreciate it. And if anyone has any questions or comments, post in the group or in the below the video here.
Yeah, right? And they can find me and even hit me up directly.
Yeah, and your website is?
www.darrenbowen.com.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Darren. Okay.
My pleasure. Cheerio.